So, the pull-out deck. I think it's finally time to actually remove this thing from the van. The amount of times we actually use it probably doesn't warrant it actually being in the van and also taking up quite a bit of usable space that I'm going to be able to utilize. So this video is going to be a bit of an upgrade video for the back area here. I'm going to remove this back deck and I think I'm going to put in an extra second fridge, and to run that fridge I'm going to install a bigger lithium battery. This video is brought to you by my brand new online course, Vanbuild Academy. More on that later. So the height of the pull-out deck, and also with the false floor on top of it, is around about 12 centimeters high. That's actually quite a bit of space, especially with the surface area that I'm losing by having something that I'm not really utilizing. Some people might get more use out of it than we have, but because we have such a great setup inside, we spend a lot of our time sitting inside the van, or when we're outside, we normally just take out our little camping chairs instead of sitting on this. So although it was pretty fun to build and make, and it also looked great, it really isn't as functional as I was hoping it was going to be, so it's time to go. First things first, I got to pull out the carpet, see if I can reuse it, and then I got to take out the false floor, all the framing, and then I'll see what I can reuse out of those. So the other thing about this deck which warrants its removal is its weight. It's definitely a lot heavier than I remember it being when I first built it, and that's partly because I only ever weighed everything in bits and pieces. At a guess, I would say this thing's probably around like 60 kilos maybe. And yeah, that's a lot of weight you're carrying around as extra for something you're not really utilizing. Okay, so the new fridge that I've chosen to put into the back area is the Evercool 50-litre dual zone fridge freezer. So I've chosen this fridge for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because of its size, I wanted a decent size fridge and freezer, because the reason for putting this second fridge in is so we can go off-grid for longer. So having a 20 or 30-litre fridge just wouldn't cut it. Secondly, I wanted a fridge with a dual zone. So this actually has a freezer and a fridge, or I can make the whole thing a freezer or a fridge if I want to, which is really good because I really wanted to have a lot of freezer space for going off grid for longer. We can freeze our meals and do whatever. And lastly, because I don't actually have a lot of vertical height to put a fridge in the back storage area, I needed a low profile fridge, and this fridge model just happens to come in that low profile model. Lastly, I've heard good things about Evercool. I've never used one of their fridges. They are Australian made, and I'll probably do a video review of these guys later once I've used it for a while to find out how they go. So the way I'm gonna mount the fridge is on a drawer slide. So this is the Evercool heavy duty fridge drawer slide, and this is gonna be great. So I'm gonna be able to pull it out and then open it up whenever I want to get access to the fridge. The only problem I have is that when the fridge sits on here, it doesn't quite fit now because the drawer slides are a little bit high. So the solution to that is I'm actually going to remove the subfloor around the frame, which is gonna drop it down another 15 mil, which is gonna make this fit nice and perfectly, and it'll probably give it a much more snug fit as well. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut out the subfloor around the frame, secure this drawer slide into the subfloor, and then I'm gonna install the fridge. Okay, so the fridge seems to absolutely fit perfectly under my sliding drawers now, which is awesome. Now what I have to do is create a couple of new support beams underneath the floor, as the original cross members where my subfloor sat on don't quite line up where I can mount the slide. So I'm just gonna recycle that piece of floor I took out and then make a couple of new furring strips for the floor so I can screw this in nice and securely. Okay, so the additional supports are in, but before I permanently screw this in, I just got to make a couple adjustments. And one adjustment is to make sure that I'll be able to access the spare wheel. So in this van, to access the spare wheel, you need to turn this nut down here, which lowers the wheel underneath. At the moment, it's a little bit obstructed by the fridge slide, so I'm just going to cut a little bit of the metal out, which will always allow me to get access to the spare wheel. Okay, so to cut this out, I'm going to use a bimetal hole saw, and it's pretty much the exact same diameter as this hole saw needs to be. I might just tape the back of the slide up so none of the metal filings get inside the bearings of the slide. And you can see now I have clear access to the spare wheel nut. So it's time to install the fridge slide. I'm going to be using these self-tapping stitching screws that have a wide head on them, so I don't need a washer. And that's going to be tons because there is a lot of holes that I can support this in. Okay. That is rock solid. Okay, so that is the fridge installed. The last thing I got to do is just attach some tie down straps down from here to here and on the back as well to make sure it doesn't move at all or bounce around while we're driving. And then it's just a matter of wiring it up. I'm reusing the carpet that I originally ripped out. I'm going to use carpet tape. So this is like an ultra sticky double-sided tape and it's super thin, so it won't protrude the carpet at all. The way that I'm going to wire in the rear fridge is the same way I wired in the front fridge, and that is with a 12-volt relay. So instead of switching my fridge through my switch panel up here, which they're not really designed for high currents like a fridge over long times, I'm going to run it through a relay, and a relay allows you to switch on and off high current circuits through a low current circuit. So essentially I'm going to run the high current positive through one circuit and then the low current circuit, which will come from my switch panel. So I'll be able to switch on and off the relay through my switch panel. So I'll show you how that all works. And then what I'm going to do is run 8-gauge wire to the back of the van to reduce that voltage drop, and then connect an Anderson plug to the fridge. Okay, so these are quite easy to install once you get your head around them. They just use these little spade quick connectors on the bottom of the lugs. And then you can also use a relay holder, which is what I'm gonna do to make it a lot neater, where your blade connectors actually go into the bottom and then your relay will sit on top like this, and then you can screw it into the wall. Okay, so I've wired up my relay in its holder now, ready to be installed. So you can see the 30 and the 87 from the relay are heavy gauge, as that's going to be the high current circuit, and then the other two are the low current circuit. So I'm going to mount this onto my electrical board now and then wire everything in. So this is inside what the relay looks like, and this is a little electromagnet. So when the voltage goes from here to here through the signal wires, it closes this little switch and opens this little switch here, which runs the high current pins here. So the current runs through here, the high current, and the low current runs across here. Are you dreaming of van life but overwhelmed by the conversion process? Don't worry, you're not alone. Building a van like this can be exciting, but it also comes with a lot of planning and decisions. So that's where I come in. I've converted multiple vans myself and learned from my mistakes. Mistakes I'll show you how to avoid. My online van build course is designed for DIY enthusiasts of all experience levels, helping you save time, money, and stress throughout your project. So here's what you'll get. Everything in one place. No more endless internet searches. The course provides all the information you need, from choosing your perfect van, planning your water, gas, and electrical systems to completion. But with detailed video tutorials, I will guide you through every step of the conversion process so you can build your van right the first time. My course streamlines the process and includes money-saving tips and tricks so you can build your van within budget. I'll help you save valuable time by having a clear plan before you even start building. Go to the link in the description to find out more. Okay, so I've run my 8-gauge cabling to here from my electrical cabinet, and I ran a thicker gauge cable just so I didn't get that voltage drop over the 2 meters or so of cable I had to use. So now I can wire up my fridge. So I'm using the Anderson plug to wire it in, and the other side goes into my fridge. But the one problem you get when you do that is that this cable now is just hanging loose, and when the fridge closes, this cable kind of just gets smushed and gets pushed around to wherever it wants to go, and you can end up damaging the cable quite easily by doing like that. So I've got a bit of a solution. Okay, so my solution is going to be using what's called a cable track. So you see these used on CNC machines, or when there's a moving motor with a cable attached and you don't want the cable to get damaged. So this is a pretty generic one I bought on eBay. It was like 12 bucks, and they are adjustable. They come in a meter length, but you can make them shorter if you like. Okay, so the way this is going to work is that one side is affixed to the sliding mechanism and the other side is affixed to the frame. and then you run the cable through the middle of it. And then what happens is that's at full extent. And then when the draw slider goes in and out, the cable guide recoils on itself and then doesn't bunch up the cable. And there's a nice, neat little mechanism here to keep the cable from getting damaged. Okay, so I'm gonna mount this now. I just have to make a couple adjustments to the length, and I might have to raise it up a little bit just so it clears this track so it doesn't squish against the fridge and runs freely. And then I can run the cable through it and probably shorten the cable as well so I don't have a lot of slack. And then it should just be as easy as plugging it back into the Anderson socket. Okay, so you can see how this is going to work now. This is affixed to here, and I just had to raise it up a little bit so it doesn't rub against between the fridge and this wall here. It's going to be connected to the back of this edge here, and then the cable will just run straight up to here, so there's nothing in the way. And I wanted to run it down this right-hand side here because there's nothing in this side, rather than run it down the left-hand side where it will get in the way when I put things down here. So here it's nice and neat and it doesn't interact with anything else. So I'm going to screw this into the metal plate here now, and then I'm going to run the cable through here and shorten it, and then that should be pretty much done. All right, so I've shortened the cable now and made it the right length so there's no more slack when it goes into the other Anderson plug. And now I'm just gonna rejoin the plug. So I don't actually have any more of these blank Anderson plug connections, so I'm gonna reuse the ones that I already have and solder it all together, and it's just gonna be as good as an original bond. When putting back your socket, you want to make sure that the positive and the negative are both lining up with the positive and negative, the one you already done. And because I can't really tell where it is, I'm going to use my voltmeter and I'm going to set it to continuity, which is what this little beeper is down here. So that measures the resistance. When it is a continuous connection, it makes a beep. If I want to know which one the positive is, I'm going to put one probe in the positive. Okay, so this one is the positive. So I can put it back together in the correct orientation. Okay, now I'm just going to bolt this into the frame here on the back where I've pre-drilled these holes. Okay, so now I can plug in my Anderson plug, and I've got no slack to worry about, so nothing's ever going to get caught on that when the drawer goes in and out. All right, so let's put it in the fridge. Okay, it seems to work perfectly. Super happy with that. Stay tuned for the next episode where I'm going to upgrade the van's battery, electrical cabling, and even add a portable solar panel to my system. If you'd like to get any of the products I've used in this video, I'll leave a link in the description to where you can find them. But if you got anything out of this video, the cheapest way to show appreciation is just to hit that like button, subscribe for more content like this. And if you want to find any more information about my Vanbuild online course, see the link in the description on how to enroll.